Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is a pro-revenge story, first time posting to this subreddit. I started following this thread after binge-watching countless Reddit story videos. This particular incident was too good not to share. There's quite a bit of setup, so please bear with me. Background. The main character of this story is my mother. I'll call her Sarah. She's in her early 70s and works at an upscale boutique that specializes in women's clothing for mature customers. She's dedicated 20 years of her life to this company. The store manager, let's call her Beth, is the quintessential entitled type. Bobbed hair with chunky highlights, always wearing designer clothes that don't quite fit right, and notorious for her less-than-faithful marriage. The store environment, staffed predominantly by older women, resembles a high school drama. Yes, age doesn't always bring wisdom. Beth has her loyal following, and during quiet store hours, the gossip flows freely. The assistant manager, Maria, is Beth's most devoted follower. Whatever Beth does, Maria mirrors like a shadow. "You wouldn't believe the drama in that place," Sarah often told me. "It's like managing a daycare center for grown women who never outgrew their mean girl phase." Sarah has always been straightforward and doesn't tolerate nonsense in her personal life. At work, though, she maintained professionalism above all else. "Kill them with kindness and outsell them all," was her motto. Her empathy set her apart from her colleagues, who seemed to have misplaced theirs years ago. Despite working part-time, she's been the district's top seller for a decade. This success made Beth and Maria seethe with jealousy. "They keep giving me the dead hours," Sarah would say, "but my customers know when to find me. They'll wait days just to shop with me." When COVID-19 hit in early 2023, the company eliminated all sales commissions. This commission system had been Sarah's main incentive for tolerating Beth and Maria's antics. The base pay was barely above minimum wage, but with commission, she could earn triple that amount on good days. "No other store in town offers anything like it," she explained, "and I doubt they'll bring it back even when things normalize." The store also reduced employee hours significantly. Beth seized this opportunity to practically push Sarah out. While other associates got 8, 10 hours weekly, Sarah barely got 6, usually during the slowest times. Beth could get away with this because she had the district manager wrapped around her finger. "It's not about the money anymore," Sarah confided in me. "It's about the principle." The store implemented mandatory masking for employees and customers. Beth and her group constantly complained about it. "It's all political theater," Beth would say during staff meetings. "The government's trying to control us like puppets." There were instances where Beth allowed maskless customers to shop, despite state and company mandates. The situation took a dark turn when Sarah's close friend died from COVID-19 complications. When Sarah requested time off for the funeral, Beth's response was callous. "Oh, please, it was probably just the flu. Stop buying into the hysteria." "I can't believe these people," Sarah told me later, fighting back tears. "They've known these customers for years, and now they're acting like their deaths mean nothing." As restrictions began lifting in mid-2024, employees were required to submit proof of vaccination. Beth and Maria opted for forged vaccination cards instead. Sarah repeatedly urged them to get vaccinated, especially given their age group's vulnerability. During one particularly tense conversation, Sarah approached Beth directly. "Look, I care about you and your family. Please just get the vaccine." Beth's response came via text message later, claiming she'd gotten vaccinated. She hadn't. Followed by a crude gif giving Sarah the finger. The incident. One slow afternoon, Sarah overheard Beth and Maria in the break room. "Can you believe that idiot Sarah actually bought that I got vaccinated?" Beth snickered. "Some people are just born stupid." That same day, while Sarah was helping a customer in the fitting room, a shoplifter made off with several items worth around $150. Company policy required 2 employees on the floor at all times, and Maria was supposed to be watching the front. Security footage later showed her scrolling through TikTok instead. Store protocol strictly prohibited confronting shoplifters. Employees were instructed to report incidents to security afterward. This policy existed to protect both the staff and the company from potential lawsuits. That evening, Sarah's phone rang. "This is Beth. You're being placed on probation pending investigation for the theft incident." "On what grounds?" Sarah asked, keeping her voice steady. "Negligence during your shift," Beth replied smugly. "Interesting, considering I was with a customer and Maria was supposed to be watching the floor," Sarah countered. "That's not relevant. We'll be reviewing your employment status," a detail I hadn't mentioned earlier. Years ago, I taught Sarah how to record conversations on her phone. Living in a one-party consent state made this completely legal. Over the years, she'd accumulated quite the collection of recordings, conversations, meetings, and phone calls that captured the toxic workplace environment. Sarah had previously attempted to address issues through HR, providing recordings as evidence, but the HR department, reporting to the same district manager in Beth's pocket, consistently brushed her concerns aside. She kept meticulous records of these interactions too. The revenge. After her dismissal, Sarah connected with one of her loyal customers, Rebecca, who happened to be a journalist for the city's major newspaper. Though Sarah couldn't pursue wrongful termination due to her part-time status, she had other plans. If they want to play dirty, Sarah told me, I'll show them what dirty really looks like. We compiled her recordings, everything from Beth bragging about her affairs to discussions about fake vaccination cards. I helped email this package to every corporate executive we could find. Sarah's email detailed how Beth, Maria, and their clique had falsified federal documents to circumvent vaccine requirements. Rebecca connected Sarah with her colleague at the newspaper, leading to both a printed expose and a TV news segment. Sarah shared everything: the wage cuts, discrimination, HR's negligence, and the forged documents. The store specifically caters to older women, Sarah explained in her interview. These managers were willing to put vulnerable customers at risk just to avoid getting vaccinated. The fallout. The response was swift and severe. Beth, Maria, the district manager, and several others were terminated immediately. The FBI launched an investigation into the forged vaccination cards, as using unauthorized government seals is a federal offense. Mrs. Thompson, the CEO, personally called Sarah. We deeply regret how you were treated. Would you consider returning with a substantial raise? Sarah declined politely. I found a position where I'm truly valued, she responded. The company faced significant backlash once the story broke. Beth's husband moved out after hearing the recordings of her discussing her affairs. Karma really is something, Sarah remarked when she heard the news. The best part? Most of Sarah's loyal customers followed her to her new workplace, where she continues to excel in sales without the toxic environment. Sometimes, Sarah told me recently, you have to lose something to gain something better. I just made sure to take some people down with me on my way out. The next one is an entitled people's story. I never thought I'd have to deal with such an entitled neighbor, but here we are. This whole mess started when my nephew Jake moved in with me after graduating college. I'm 45, single, and have lived in my house for the past 15 years. It's a nice 3-bedroom home in a quiet, suburban neighborhood that I purchased outright after inheriting money from my parents. Jake is 23 and just landed his first job as a software developer at a local tech company. Since the job market is tough and rent prices are insane right now, I offered to let him stay with me while he saves up for his own place. He's a great kid, quiet, responsible, and helps around the house. Plus, having some company is nice since I work from home as a technical writer. Enter my neighbor Karen, not her real name, but it fits. She moved into the house next door about 6 months ago and has been a pain ever since. Always complaining about minor things like my grass being half an inch too long or my recycling bin being visible from the street. I mostly ignored her pettiness until she started targeting Jake. It began with suspicious glares whenever he'd come home from work. Then she started taking photos of his car parked in my driveway. One day, I caught her peering through my front windows with her phone out. When I confronted her, she claimed she was documenting code violations. This is a single-family neighborhood, she snapped. You can't run an illegal boarding house. I explained that Jake was my nephew staying temporarily, which was perfectly legal. She didn't believe me. I've seen young men coming and going at all hours, she said. Completely false. Jake works normal 9-5 hours. I'm on the homeowners association board and we don't allow roommates or renters. I informed her that first, we don't have an homeowners association, and second, I own my house outright so I can have whoever I want living with me. She stormed off in a huff. A week later, I received a certified letter from some sketchy property management company claiming to represent the neighborhood association and demanding that I cease all rental activities within 30 days or face legal action. The letter was full of misspellings and looked completely unprofessional. I did some digging and discovered the company didn't even exist. Karen had created fake letterhead to try to intimidate me. I thought that would be the end of it, but Karen escalated things further. She started calling the police with noise complaints, despite Jake being extremely quiet, and code enforcement about unauthorized occupancy. Each time the officials would show up, quickly determine there was no issue, and leave. This went on for weeks. The final straw came when Jake called me at work in a panic. He'd come home to find an eviction notice taped to our front door, claiming he had 24 hours to vacate the premises. The notice looked official at first glance, but was clearly fake upon closer inspection. The kicker? It listed Karen as the property owner. I immediately called the police to report harassment and criminal impersonation. When they arrived, Karen came running over, waving printouts from some real estate website. "This property is listed under my last name LLC," she screeched. "She's just a tenant who's been illegally subletting. I represent the real owners." I calmly went inside and retrieved my property deed, mortgage satisfaction letter, and tax records clearly showing I was the sole owner. The officers took one look at Karen's fake documents versus my real ones, and their whole demeanor changed. "Ma'am, falsifying legal documents and impersonating property owners is a serious crime," one officer informed her. "We're going to need you to come down to the station." Karen's face went from smug to shocked in an instant. But, I'm on the Homeowners Association board. I have the right to enforce the rules." "There is no homeowners association in this neighborhood," the officer replied. "And you have no authority to issue eviction notices for property you don't own." They ended up arresting her for multiple counts of harassment, criminal impersonation, and attempted fraud. Turns out she had pulled similar stunts in her previous neighborhood before moving here. She was actually renting her house and was apparently jealous that I owned mine outright. The district attorney's office took the case seriously since Karen had a history of this behavior. They offered her a plea deal, 18 months probation, mandatory psychiatric evaluation, and she had to move at least 50 miles away. She took the deal rather than risk jail time. Her landlord evicted her once he learned about her criminal charges. I later found out she'd been lying to him too, claiming to be part of a homeowners association that didn't exist, and trying to get him to raise other tenants' rent. Jake still lives with me and is doing great at his job. We actually laugh about the whole situation now, though it was incredibly stressful at the time. The new neighbors who moved into Karen's old house are lovely people who mind their own business. The best part? Karen's attempt to evict Jake led to her evicting herself from the neighborhood. The irony is not lost on us. I thought that would be the end of our saga with Karen, but we had one final surprise waiting for us. About 2 months after she moved away, I received a certified letter from a real lawyer. Karen was suing me for emotional distress and damage to her reputation. She was demanding $250,000 in damages, claiming I had maliciously orchestrated her arrest and eviction. I immediately contacted my homeowner's insurance company, and they assigned me a lawyer named Sarah Mitchell. When I showed Sarah the entire paper trail, including photos of the fake eviction notices, police reports, and security camera footage of Karen snooping around my property, she actually laughed. "This is what we call a frivolous lawsuit," Sarah explained. "She has no case, and her lawyer should know better. We're going to file a countersuit for malicious prosecution and legal fees." During the discovery phase, even more of Karen's schemes came to light. She had created a fake email account pretending to be a county housing inspector and had been sending threatening messages to other neighbors about supposed violations. She'd even started a Facebook group called our street name Homeowners Association, where she posed as multiple different residents discussing made-up rules and regulations. The most shocking revelation came from her previous neighborhood. Through depositions, we learned that she had successfully intimidated 3 different families into moving out by convincing them their homes were being rezoned for commercial use. She would create elaborate fake government documents and even set up fake municipal websites to support her claims. When we appeared in court for the initial hearing, Karen showed up representing herself. Her lawyer had withdrawn from the case after discovering the extent of her deceptions. She tried to argue that as a concerned citizen, she had the right to enforce community standards. The judge was not impressed. "Miss Karen's last name," the judge said sternly, "you have demonstrated a pattern of fraudulent behavior that has caused real harm to multiple individuals. The only person responsible for your current situation is yourself." The judge dismissed her lawsuit with prejudice and granted our countersuit. Karen was ordered to pay all my legal fees, around $15,000, plus an additional $25,000 in punitive damages for malicious prosecution. "But I don't have that kind of money," Karen protested. "I had to move into a tiny apartment because of him." She pointed at me accusingly. "You had to move because you committed multiple crimes," the judge corrected her. "The court will set up a payment plan, but these damages will be paid." As we left the courthouse, Karen tried one last desperate move. She approached Jake in the parking lot. "I know what really happened," she hissed. "You seduced your uncle into letting you stay rent-free. I've seen your type before." That was the last straw for me. I turned around and loudly announced, "Everything you just said was recorded on the courthouse security cameras. Would you like to go back inside and explain to the judge why you're harassing us immediately after leaving his courtroom?" She practically ran to her car. The aftermath of all this actually brought our neighborhood closer together. Several neighbors admitted they'd been intimidated by Karen, but had been afraid to speak up. We now have regular block parties, real ones, not fake homeowners association meetings. and everyone looks out for each other. Jake eventually moved out last month after saving enough for a down payment on his own condo, but he still comes over for dinner twice a week, and we joke about installing a Karen alert system in his new place. We do occasionally check the court records to make sure Karen is keeping up with her payments. She is, though I'm sure it pains her. The last we heard, she's living in an apartment complex 2 counties over, one with a real homeowners association and strict rules about harassing neighbors. The whole experience taught me some valuable lessons. Always keep good records, invest in security cameras, and never underestimate the length some people will go to exert control over others. But most importantly, it showed me that standing up to bullies not only protects yourself, but can protect others as well. Oh, and I had a custom doormat made that reads, "Attention, this is not an homeowners association property," just in case any future Karens move to the neighborhood. Update 6 months later. The story has an interesting epilogue. Last week I received an unexpected email from Karen's daughter, who found me through mutual acquaintances. She apologized for her mother's behavior and explained that Karen had finally been diagnosed with a combination of personality disorders and was getting proper treatment. The daughter shared that this pattern of behavior had been going on for decades, destroying their family relationships and causing them to move countless times. She thanked me for being the one who finally stood firm and got her mother into the legal system, which ultimately led to the mental health intervention she desperately needed. Karen is now in intensive therapy and on medication. Her daughter says she's showing real improvement and has even expressed remorse for her actions, though she's not ready to make direct amends yet. The court-mandated psychiatric evaluation turned out to be the wake-up call her family had been hoping for. Jake's condo, by the way, is doing great. And yes, we did install those security cameras, though more for peace of mind than actual need. Our neighborhood has remained Karen-free, and the monthly block parties are still going strong. Sometimes the craziest situations really do bring out the best in a community. The experience has made me more aware of mental health issues and how they can manifest in unexpected ways. While it doesn't excuse Karen's actions, understanding the root cause has helped me feel more compassion. From a safe distance, of course. My new doormat now reads, "All are welcome here, but please ring the bell first." The next one is a Malicious compliances story. I'm a senior construction superintendent in the DFW area. The project I'm currently on is a 13-acre site smack in the middle of an extremely affluent area to the north of Dallas. 3 weeks ago, a city inspector that we'll call Joe came into the site office and said that they received a complaint about a sprinkler soaker line being damaged during excavation for the fire lane. He, my landscaper, and myself went to investigate, discovered where a small fitting had blown out of the line. Landscaper repaired it. I went up to knock on the door to explain to them the issue and inform them of the repair. I got no answer at the door, so I left a card and a note asking them to call me. They never did. A week later, Joe comes in and mentions that they've reached out again about the noise from equipment, which is odd because anyone with heavy equipment is currently working on the other end of the property. I again went to speak with them, got no answer at the door, and left a card again. Yesterday, in walks Joe to tell me that they're complaining about our construction fences on their property and killing their grass. The fence is 12 from their fence, and our specs call for it to be a minimum of 15 from the property line, so I pull up our CAD files on the survey plat so I can make sure we have it placed exact, and realize that their wood fence is 4 onto our property. Their house is about 14 inches onto our property. During all of this, I get an email from the city asking me to place the construction fence squarely on our property line. The email is sent to me, the apparent homeowner, Joe, and my project manager. I brought the surveyors back out yesterday to pinpoint our property corners and give us some 10 offsets, reference points 10 east of the property line for line of sight, to measure from. I knocked on the homeowner's door again and got no answer. Mind you, every time there were cars in the drive. Fast forward to this morning, my fence crew showed up and they began moving the fence onto the property line, which takes 31 inches, 2 feet 7 inches of their driveway, and 18 of the road where it ends at the property, was previously a cul-de-sac. The client finally reached out, or more accurately, came to the site office in a huff. I explained the issue, showed him the plat, and he left with some unkind words flowing from him, like diesel exhaust on a steep incline. I put a pause on the fence relocation just to soothe the wound. My PM called him. I called the city right-of-way, RAW, engineer, and our client. We set up a meeting that just ended. He claimed that our plat was wrong. The engineer and everyone else disagreed. The back and forth went on long enough for the client, who is an extremely laid-back and quiet gentleman, to finally speak up and basically say, "We're just going to go ahead and sell you the property you've stolen at current market value plus 10%. In this area, that's not cheap. If that's not acceptable, we'll just have you move your fence, cut out your driveway, and use the east side of your home for advertisement. Or you can back off, let these guys work, and we'll give you lifetime use of the area you currently occupy, so long as there's no more hassling of any kind. The guy asked me if we'd move the fence back out, and I told him no. I agreed to take it off his driveway, but the street and green space belonged to us. We only did what he asked us to do. The engineer who asked me to move it agreed. So, there it is. The story again. The fallout and conclusion. The next one is an entitled people story. I am 21F. I am the oldest niece-grandchild on my father's side of the family. My sister comes next, and then my two cousins. I was 9 when the oldest of my cousins was born. My paternal family isn't very close. I could do a whole Spur8 post just about my dad and grandpa and the lawsuits between them, lol. But my aunt and dad maintained a cordial relationship. My aunt had married a nice man and had 2 children with him, CM, cousins male, and CF, cousin female. The older of the two has some developmental issues. He is doing quite well if you take those in considerations and is probably going to be able to actually learn a trade. Due to the child's issues, my aunt became a Sam and did the kids' things, even when both kids were in daycare and school and the husband dropped them off, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. And in the evenings, she was too exhausted to watch them and had her husband take over. Just to give you an example of what I mean when I say she's entitled. When the kids were little, she'd often ask for our toys, clothes, or make my parents take them along on vacations. I adore my cousins, but always hated that we had to be nice because family is important, especially since my aunt was so rude. When the kids were like 6, 7-ish, the two separated and have been co-parenting relatively healthy. My aunt since then had started to party a lot and went to clubs and stuff on her kid-free weekends. I was like 15 at the point and the go-to-free babysitter. I didn't mind at first because they're family, but after a few months, it got annoying and I stopped helping out so much. Around that time, my father also passed away and my aunt suddenly declared she didn't have any family left. Her mom and dad died way earlier and my father was her only sibling. She went a little crazy about a lot of crap. Like, she offered my mom help to sell my dad's car, and my mom said whatever money she can get is fine as long as she can pay the loan off. Any extra my aunt could keep. My aunt got offended and literally showed up drunk on our doorstep demanding more support and help. The biggest fallout came during COVID. My mom has a lung disease which caused her to be really high risk, so me and my sister, of course, were careful with contacts and stuff, especially at the beginning when nobody knew much. My aunt was the opposite and went super mad that I wasn't available to help with the kids' schooling and babysitting since she was alone with 2 kids full-time. Mind you, I was in my senior year at that point, and she was still not working. She was living on government aid. We broke off contact after she basically told me that I am a stupid child for following the law and that I should know better. My mom stayed in touch though, especially since she was selling our house, and that house originally belonged to my dad's side of the family, and there were more family heirlooms and stuff. During the entire moving process, my aunt demanded things of my dad that me, my mom, or my sister wanted to keep or have an emotional connection to. It was really bad. We've recently got back into contact and my mom invited her to a Christmas dinner on the 26th and now she's demanding we move it because she can't come on the 26th. She also hinted that I should let my cousins come visit me for a weekend since I live on my own now and moved away. I am a broke college student with flatmates, so that's not going to happen even though she brought it up multiple times. Thank you for watching. I would really appreciate it if you could like the video and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. We'll see you again tomorrow.